Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you and good evening. We appreciate you taking the time tonight to come to the webinar. For anyone that doesn't know me, I'm Carly Summers. I manage the Green Certification Program for Montgomery County and the City of Clarksville, and I'll be facilitating the meeting tonight. So just want to go through a couple things real quick before we get started. First, if everyone can make sure that they're on mute so that we don't get any feedback for the presenters, that would be great. Second, there is a chat box on WebEx. If you want to locate that, that's how we'll be doing questions tonight. So once we get through all the presenters, we'll go through the questions that have come in through the chat box. So if you find that, doesn't matter, you can send them in any time. I'll be monitoring the chat. So go ahead and type them in there and I'll make sure that they all get answered at the end. Lastly, we will have this video posted. It'll go up probably a couple days from now. We'll have it, and I will send the link to everyone that was registered. So don't worry, you'll get a link to the video along with a link so that you can download the slides from tonight as well. And with that, we will go ahead and get started. So our first presenter is Seth Roberts from CEMC. Seth has worked for CEMC for the past 18 years. Most of that time has been spent working in relation to energy services and programming, but his duties have included customer service representative, energy program inspector, energy consultant, and his role for the past 5 years as member service manager. So Seth, I will turn the time over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Carly, and thank everyone for joining us this evening. I'm going to be representing basically on behalf of your two local power companies, hopefully for everyone that's on the call. So that's CEMC and also CDE Lightband. As Carly said, we're going to hold for questions till the end, but aside from myself, we do have representatives from CEMC and TVA available for the call. Make that CDE and TVA that'll be available to answer your questions. So to kick things off, and we can just go ahead and advance to the next slide, Carly. But we're here tonight to talk about solar, and a lot of folks wonder what the role of their power company is when it comes to solar. And really, usually what I tell folks is, as with any major energy decision that you're going to make at your home, we want to be your trusted energy partner, and we want to be a resource for all the consumers that we serve. And as a part of that, we want to take the opportunity to provide our members that do reach out to us and contact us with a holistic understanding of their home energy use. We're wanting them to help them look at their energy use and in totality, and look at their home as a system. Of course, our focus today is on solar, but of course, with making any energy investment in your home, it's very important to look at the house as a system and also have a really good understanding of where your energy dollars are going. And I'll dive into some resources that we have available to you later in the presentation. But thirdly, we also want to help facilitate safe and quality interconnections for our members. That's good for our consumers. We want you to have a good experience when making energy decisions, particularly in regard to solar. There's a lot of buzz around that right now, and we're seeing a lot more traffic in this area. It's also good when they're quality installations for the grid. So it matters to us that we're getting installations that are good quality. And then third, and really the most important piece for us is we want the installations to be safe for our line workers and for the general public. Next slide, please. So with that, really the starting point is, I think, the resources that we can provide you. And as Carly said, this information is going to be made available on their website, but in the presentation there are links. These are just illustrations of websites that are available. But really, whether you're a do-it-yourselfer or our hope is that you will contact us to help guide you through any kind of decisions that you're making in regard to solar. One of the first things that you can do is visit us online, and I'm hopeful that everyone that's on this webinar today has access to the internet and can visit our website. But The three illustrations that I have here is first is CDE's website, which is just CDElightband.com. The second one is CEMC.org, and the third is TVA's EnergyRight.com. And on these websites, it's really too much to cover everything and during this presentation, but we've got a slew of information available to you. From analyzing your household consumption, which we're happy to help you with, to appliance calculators, to energy tips, and probably something that's very much so of value for anyone that's considering solar to do on the front end is to perform a home energy audit. And on our websites and through the energyright.com website, we have avenues where members can not only conduct a do-it-yourself audit online, which is at no cost, but they also can schedule in-person and virtual home energy audits where a professional will be glad to audit their home to help them understand where their energy dollars are going and guide them with their energy decisions. Next slide, please. And obviously, we're all here to talk about solar. We've got lots of resources there for you as well. These illustrations, the first one is TVA's solar calculator. And this is it's an easy to use calculator that's based on inputs that you provide in relation to what you're considering doing at your home if you are shopping for solar. And it'll provide you estimated generation for a system, estimated average system cost that we've seen in this area. There's also links that provide you with federal tax credit info, as well as an estimated payback timeline. The middle illustration is our national, it's not ours, excuse me. It's the National Renewable Energy Laboratory PV Watts calculator. This is another calculator to help you determine what kind of performance you might get out of a solar or PV system that you're installing at your house. And this is a tool that energy auditors, contractors, installers have used for many, many years. It's very, very trustworthy. It's a nice way to get basically third-party, unbiased estimations of what your system might generate at your household. And that's a tool that you can use to compare to any information that a contractor might be providing you if you are out there shopping to have a system installed and are getting estimations provided from contractors. And along with that, something I probably should have mentioned earlier, as your local power company, I know I can speak for CDE as well. We're happy to help you understand this. So while I'm providing you these resources today, it is something that we invite you to go look at and utilize. But please keep in mind that we're happy to help coach you on how to use these tools. So the first two, again, are basically calculators. They perform similar tasks, but are just good resources for you to make calculations and investigate installing solar at your home. The third icon is related to TVA's new program, which was just released the first of this year, and it's called Green Connect. And at greenconnect.com, the website I've got illustrated there, the focus is on solar and renewable energy, but really it's an avenue not only to provide you with information and resources, but it's also an avenue to connect you to TVA quality contractors that meet TVA's criteria to be on that list to do quality installations in our both CDE and CEMC service territory. Next slide, please. So also during my time, I wanted to just very, very simplistically give you an overview of the steps and process that's involved with interconnecting a solar system at your home. And first and foremost, as I've mentioned earlier, the best advice I can give you is to contact your local power company. When you contact us, we're going to help connect you with many of the resources and some others that I've mentioned today, but also we're going to outline the specific details for your interconnection process, and that varies a little bit between power companies. So it's very important for you to call your power provider to learn about the interconnection process. Also, based on the resources and tools that we provide you and work with you, to help you make an educated decision. Through that and TVA's Green Connect program, we can put you in touch with quality contractors. That being said, whether you utilize the quality contractor network list or not, I highly recommend shopping around as you're contacting contractors. I can tell you from experience that installers out there are going to offer you different equipment that's going to be a different brand, different price, different warranty. So take your time and shop around. Also, another reason why you want to contact your local power company is we want to make sure that you're aware of any applicable documentation that you need to complete that connected to your system. For example, some utilities require an interconnection application or an interconnection agreement in order for you to interconnect a system to the grid. Another key component is, in most cases, a contractor will take care of this for you, but another component is you need to make sure that your system is inspected and approved by a state electrical inspector. Before CEMC or CDE will approve a system for parallel operation with the electric grid, the system does have to be inspected and approved by the state electrical inspector. Next slide, please. And with that, I also wanted to make you available of, or make you aware of programs that we have available through our partnership with TVA. Currently, we've got Green Switch, the Dispersed Power Production Program, and then also the Green Connect program that I've already mentioned. And to dive into those details a little bit, can we go to the next slide, please? So first off, Green Switch. This is a way that folks can support renewable generation in the Valley. And it's for somebody that has a solar array at their home, they could take advantage of this program. But really, at least in my experience, the majority of folks that I've seen take advantage of the Green Switch program are people that maybe don't want to install solar at their home, or maybe their home's just not a good application for solar. For example, I live in an old neighborhood that's my roof is shaded by trees all year long, so my house probably wouldn't be a good application. And through Green Switch, that's a way that, again, using myself as an example, that I can contribute to renewable generation here in the Valley. It's a very simplistic program. The way that you get into it is just to enroll is just to contact your local power company, and you can sign up over the phone. But it starts at $2 per block, and you can do as many blocks as you like. But for every $2 block that you purchase and add on to your electric bill each month, you're guaranteeing the generation of 200 kilowatt hours worth of renewable generation in the Valley. It's a short-term commitment, and by that I mean it's a monthly basis. So if it's just billed with the electric bill each month, and you can get out at any time. So essentially, if you give it approximately a 30-day notice by your next electric bill, it'll no longer be there. Next slide, please. Another program we have available is the Dispersed Power Program. And this is a program where you can contract directly with TVA to sell back power to TVA. And with, I know that this is a residential call that we're on today, predominantly focused around solar, but this does extend to other renewable resources. And the predominant example that I have for this, that members utilize the Dispersed Power Program, is that if they are interested in installing solar at their home, and they want to sell back any surplus generation to TVA, then this is an avenue where they can do that. They would execute a contract directly with TVA and get paid back what is deemed as TVA's avoided cost for the excess generation, which equates to, it changes monthly, but approximately 2 cents per kilowatt hour. So I guess the big message there is that for anyone that is interested in installing a renewable at their house, there is a buyback program for you that that's available, that you can get some money back for the power that you generate. Next slide, please. And the last program that I wanted to mention again is the TVA Green Connect program. Again, this is to help connect our consumers with quality installers here in our area. It gives you access to a wealth of information to provide you with knowledge to make a smart decision when it comes to installing solar at your home. And then another part of it is after the system is installed, any system that goes through the Green Connect program is inspected by a trained energy advisor. And then also through the program, not only solar, but as well as storage is allowed. And then next slide. And I know my time was very brief with you today, and we tried to cover a lot, kind of just scratching the surface of a lot of tools and resources that we have available. But really, my big takeaways that I hope that you'll get from this is, number one, call the local power company if you are interested in solar or making any major energy decision for your home. We want to help arm you with the knowledge and resources to make a smart decision. And also, all three of my points here are kind of building on each other. Do your homework. Don't rush into anything. Whether you're changing out a heat pump or installing solar panels on your house, usually you can get a lot of money involved in that kind of decision. And it's just a good idea to do your homework, shop around, and finally make sure you're taking advantage of all the resources that are available to you. On top of the website links that Carly will provide you today, there's a lot of good people on the call that have a lot of good information, and I know are willing to help guide you in your decision. And then you also just want to make sure that you're not leaving anything on the table. You want to be sure to take advantage of any programs, incentives, tax credits, everything that's available to you. So back to my number one, if you do have any questions and you're just interested in solar or any other major energy decision, please be sure to contact your local power company. And Carly, that is all, I believe, my slides. And I'll wrap it all up with, we'll be on at the end for questions. Again, both CDE, myself, and then a representative from TVA. So feel free to hit us up with any questions you have. And I appreciate everyone's time this evening.
Great. Thank you, Seth. I appreciate it. We'll move into our next presenter. So our next presenter is Gil Hough. He is a founding member of TENESEA, which is the Tennessee Solar Energy Industries Association. At TENESEA, he serves as the executive director, advocating for orderly and sustained development of solar energy within Tennessee. Gil has developed a number of solar projects with a focus on projects that are between 1 and 5 megawatts on brownfield and industrial sites that leverage local economic development. So welcome, Gil, and thanks so much for being here tonight.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me. It's always fun to talk about solar energy, and it's a very exciting time to be in the industry. There is a ton going on, and it's exciting. Tennessee represents a very broad and very different kind of solar industry. I mean, it's manufacturing, it's large scale, it's medium scale. Working that 1 to 5 megawatt space, mostly interconnected through the local power companies, and it is the residential and small commercial that we're here to talk about today. And when you look at those various things, they're all very different in how to, interconnect them to the grid. Frankly, the big stuff is going gangbusters. TVA announced almost a gigawatt of new solar contracts in TVA just today, and they're going to be putting out another request for proposal for the big stuff. And solar energy is now the low cost and clean energy resource that's available, and so it's a very good time. It is in Tennessee, in the Tennessee Valley. It is a little more challenging time for the residential and small commercial market, and it has particular challenges as to connect those. And Tennessee does play a role both, representing the interests of the industry, both with state legislature and TVA. We are supporters of the Green Connect program. Tennessee met with TVA and the LPC community like every other week all last year, working out those details and helping negotiate that. And we do think that is going to be a real positive for the industry. The biggest problem with a homeowner or going right now to Green Connect is because it's so new. Many very good solar installers just have not had a chance to get processed through the TVA system yet. So that is something to keep in mind. I do think Green Connect is a very solid quality network. And homeowners who are interested in going through Green Connect is going to be very helpful. And, they'll be able to use solar installers will have the logo, LPCs will list them. So that is a great resource and one we're excited about. And put a fair amount of time trying to make sure it was done right. The industry never gets everything we want, but we have found that TVA and the LPC community, like is represented here today, generally are very open to, working things. We are coming from different viewpoints, but Tennessee is a good working relationship with TVA and the LPCs. So next slide, please. So really, most of the time, Tennessee, frankly, we do a whole bunch of webinars and outreach and education and events. I'll be honest, most of them is focused on working with the solar industry and with LPCs and TVA. We are an industries association, but we do try whenever possible to do events like this to help educate. And so for a workshop like this, really, it is very why we put so much effort last year into helping put together Green Connect is because we do believe that high quality installations on the home that are safe and perform as promised are critical for the growth of the industry. Anytime a bad system goes up, promises aren't met, expectations of, and I'll admit, solar industry is still pretty new. I mean, there's tens of thousands of people in the solar industry in the state of Tennessee, and there's hundreds of thousands now in the United States. But we are a young and sometimes wild bunch, and you do have to be thoughtful with the perspectives, and that's why I do think Green Connect as a quality network is going to be helpful to that. But we do encourage consumers to be thoughtful in their approach. And I think Scott mentioned, or Seth mentioned, a couple of things earlier that are also things that we recommend. A lot of homeowners, they don't know what their electric usage is. When they get, payback rate numbers, they don't know how to qualify it. I do think NREL and the TVA calculator is very helpful, but know what your electric usage is. Be aware of your roof. If you don't have a new roof and it might not make a lot of sense to put it on an old roof. Make sure to live within the finances and you understand realistic paybacks. Most of the time about purchase options, leasing on the residential market is big in other places because we don't have net metering in the valley. That makes most leasing challenging here, but there are some entities you can't have a lease. Like what you can lease is solar equipment. That kind of takes it out of the and so leasing solar equipment is something that is available in Tennessee, but I have to admit that's details are still being challenged on that part. Energy storage is huge, and let me explain a little bit why. It used to be that, and TVA incentivized solar for a number of years to help drive down the price of solar. But now it is low-cost energy. Now, it's much lower cost for utility scale than it is for homeowners. I can put up a megawatt in 2 weeks, and I can put up 5 kilowatts in 2 weeks on a house. the amount of labor and stuff, even though the components are pretty similar, means the cost, the smaller you get for homeowners, it is more expensive per watt to install a residential system. And DPP basically pays avoided rate. That's basically the cost of fuel for TVA. It's very low. So most homeowners are going to want to offset their use at their regular rate. Let's say 10 cents is very average. To make sure they're not pushing out onto the grid, that's where storage comes in. Storage is more expensive. Storage is very expensive. It might double your costs on a residential system, but then again, you might be able to offset power at a higher rate. So asking both for solar and storage today, in the majority of residential systems we're seeing going up is storage, solar plus storage systems. And that does actually have some real positive impacts on the distribution system. There was issues like the duck curve where power would go off when you're not needed and stuff. I don't want to get too technical here, but storage really makes sure that doesn't happen. So solar and storage really is beneficial to the entire system. Always make sure you get multiple quotes. This was mentioned earlier, and I completely agree. Get a couple different quotes, find out, get some recommendations, make sure that, you're making. NABCEP is very important. I mentioned that when you do your research, ask, are they NABCEP certified? Now, that's a national accreditation for solar installers. There's an associate's level that's just basically very simple. Then there's much more advanced, PV design specialists that are really challenging. Be aware what kind of NABCEP they have, what level they are in. Really, any solar installer should be NABCEP certified if they're going to be up working on their roof. Somebody, at least the shop manager, should be NABCEP certified. Make sure the tax credits can be taken advantage of under many circumstances, but not all. I'm not a tax specialist, but it is not always as simple as some will provide. So make sure you're doing your research. DPP, as I already mentioned, the challenge with DPP, it is very good. I mean, I totally agree. Working with your local power company to make sure you're interconnecting safely and with trusted advisors that you can count on is critical. Green Connect, again, absolutely fantastic. Many solar installers and most solar companies in the Valley are members of the state association. It is a good sign if in most states that they are members of their professional association. Tennessee members have to sign a code of ethics that if they are found to break, they can't be members of Tennessee. So that is not as holistic as Green Connect, but I would encourage, that is another checkbox you can look at when you're looking at solar installers. And I'll leave it at that. I'll stick around and be happy to do questions and answers for anybody interested in from Tennessee perspective. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Gil. We appreciate that. Our next presenter is Bill Moore. Bill owns a local net zero house. He is an electrical engineer, a doctor, and an all-out green power enthusiast. So welcome, Bill. We're excited to hear about your experience with your house.
All right. So what I'm going to review is just a real life kind of example of using a large solar array to reduce your electric bill basically to zero. And the first thing you need to do in any kind of plan like this is you need to reduce your electrical usage, which we've already kind of touched on. So one of the things you want to do is get LED light bulbs for your whole house, which is fairly easy to do now. Next, any kind of major appliances that you buy, you want to try and get the best Energy Star appliance that you can purchase. And a chest freezer is usually the most efficient, so I would recommend one of those also. Carly, let's go to slide 2. This shows cellulose insulation, which is newspaper insulation in the walls of a house. The studs are a little different. They're 2x6s instead of 2x4s, and they're on 24-inch centers, and that reduces thermal transfer through the wall. And then on the next slide, most of your heat and cooling losses in a house are almost always through the roof. So anytime you're doing anything at your home, you want to be sure to add attic insulation. The best way to do that is through spray foam. And it's best under the roof deck, as shown in this picture. When possible, that does two things. It totally seals the house and keeps you from having that hot attic space. And the next slide, please. As far as your hot water heater, when you replace your hot water heater, if you're going to try and power everything by solar, you need to get a heat pump hot water heater. They're extremely efficient, have no CO2 emissions, and will totally run off your solar panels. And next slide. Cooktop or range. You should get an induction cooktop. Regular cooktop, electric cooktop, which most people use, about 40% of the energy you use in that cooktop goes to heat the food, and 60% of the energy is just wasted. So you're just, for every dollar you spend cooking food, you're using 40 cents for your food, and 60 cents you're throwing in the trash can. For a gas cooktop, people love gas to cook, but only 60% of the energy you use to heat the food, and 40% is wasted just to heat into the house. And with an induction cooktop, which uses magnetic energy to cook your food, 80% of the energy is used to heat the food and only 20% is wasted. So induction cooktops are just as adjustable as gas cooktops. They cook just as fantastically as a gas cooktop, but produce no fumes into the house and no CO2 emissions, and will run totally off your solar very efficiently. Next slide. Heating and air conditioning units. First thing you need to do in any house is keep all your HVAC filters clean. That'll help reduce your power consumption a lot. The next thing is, if you can, you should try and get a geothermal heat pump. There's a lot of misconceptions that you have to drill wells to use one of these, but you don't. You only need a pit of at least 6 feet in depth for the Clarksville area, and 10 feet square to 10 to 20 feet square. It depends on the size of your home. And then that can be backfilled with dirt and just covered with grass or shrubs. I wouldn't recommend putting trees over the top of it. And that's where the heat pump will get the heat from your soil actually to heat the house. Geothermal heat pumps last about 25 years, and all of the materials and electrical equipment, as you can see in this photo, are inside your house. So because of that, they're protected from the weather. A typical air conditioning heating unit that you put outside your home will only last about 15 years because it's exposed to all the weather. The ground loop that we were talking about, you can see that on the left in this photo. Those will last about 50 years. So once the unit's installed, it's a long-term process. A geothermal heat pump, the reason why I'm recommending it is a regular heat pump, a standard heat pump. If you put in 100 watts of electricity, it'll only produce 300 watts of heat. For a geothermal heat pump, on average, 100 watts of electricity will produce 600 watts of heat. So it's twice as efficient. The payback for the price difference is usually only 4 to 7 years. And after that, with a lifespan of 25 years, you have a lot of savings. It also makes your experience outside of the house a lot better. There's no noisy fans or anything running in your backyard or outside of your house. It's totally quiet except for maybe your neighbor's fans, because all the parts are inside your house and quiet. The next slide, Carla. So geothermal heat pumps can also be used to cool your house in the summer. And if you see that grayish storage tank to the side of the hot water heater there, you can see that the geothermal heat pump actually connects to that. So during the summer months when your house is hot, your normal air conditioner removes heat from the house, and then you have a fan outside, and all that heat is blowing out through that air conditioner unit outside of your house into the hot air. This unit can take that heat that it's removing from your house and actually put it into your hot water and heat your hot water for basically for free, just at the cost of cooling your house. During the winter, it can also heat water in your house with excess heat you can generate. Next slide, Carl. So on the solar, there's no reason to start big. For instance, with my house, that basically reduces your electricity bill down to zero. Just one panel will decrease your electric bill. The key thing here, as everybody has already said, is that you need to have your local power provider look into how much you want to reduce your electric bill, and then install the right amount of solar to balance out what you're trying to accomplish. Next slide, Carl. When you install your solar, it's a long-term project, and you need to keep that in mind. The panels last 25 to 30 years or longer, and they still will produce at least 90% of their original energy production during that time frame. Next slide, Carl. And this just kind of shows the way power production is during a nice sunny day off my roof. You get the nice curve as the sun rises in the morning and sets. This is on November 4th. And the thing about that is that when you generate power like that during the day, it doesn't necessarily match your usage. So the current solar for most houses, you're going to be what's called behind the grid, which means you need a battery backup system, which was already discussed, something like a Tesla wall to accomplish. And what that will do is, as you provide this large power curve during a sunny day, like is in the slide, if you're not using that power, then you can store that excess power that you generate during the daytime, and then that power can be used from the batteries at night to offset your electric bill when you're home cooking dinner. And the reason why you want to do that is basically unless you want to give the power kind of away to TVA for free or a small payment that they now do. And then the last slide, Carly, if you want to learn more about making your home either more energy efficient or how to build a new home or remodel your home to make it more energy efficient into a similar net zero home, then you can go to my house's website, the netzerotn.com, to learn more, and all this information is there. And that's it. Carly, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bill. We appreciate it. That was fantastic. Our final presenter of the evening is JoAnn McIntosh. JoAnn is a teacher and long-time Montgomery County resident. She is the volunteer leader for our local Sierra Club, and as such is an advocate for solar power as an essential element to decarbonize the grid and mitigate climate change. So it's great to have you with us, JoAnn. Go ahead and take over.
Hi, thank you, Carly, for inviting me to be here this evening, and thanks to Bill for such a comprehensive explanation of how you can be more energy efficient with your house. If you're building a new house, all the things that you can do to make sure that your energy bills are as low as possible. Go ahead to the next slide, Carly. We were in a different situation. We have an older home out in the county. It consists of a house, workshop, which you're seeing here, which is where the solar array is, and a barn. I just put the building dimensions here so you could see the size of the building, how much space the panels take up, and what our capacity is for electricity generation. Next slide. This is just another shot of the workshop again, so you could see the angle actually of the rooftop, the roof pitch. This is also a south-facing roof, as Bill's was, but you notice that the angle of our roof is significantly less steep than Bill's house. So we have very efficient energy generation during the summer months, and not as efficient during the winter. Next slide. I just wanted to show you what was actually set up when we decided to get the solar array. Some of the decisions we made were, should we put it on the house? Should we put it on the workshop? We chose the workshop because it was newer. So it had a new roof. There were fewer trees around it, so that was one consideration. And then we had the installer come out, and we worked with our power local LPC's CEMC, and they came out and did the final connections to the grid. And I just wanted to show you this meter in front on the pole was the original meter that we had for the house and shop and barn. A separate meter is in the background that shows the energy generation from the solar panels. And then this was all brought together with, back in the foreground again, what I'm calling the center tap meter that figures everything together. Next slide. Just again, a little more information on the actual setup and how it was installed. As you can see, coming down from the rooftop, this is the workshop again, is a conduit that is connecting the array to what we'll see in the next slide. Also, you're seeing down in the lower part of the screen, just our service panel for the workshop. But then above that is the meter that you saw before that's just calculating the energy generation. There's a break-off switch there as well. And then next slide. Pardon my technical language, this is the magic box. This is what brings everything together here and makes it all work. It shows us, gives us access to examples of what Bill showed with the power generation. So you can see the actual amount that's being produced and how it changes during the day, and lots of good information there. I wanted to mention too that we're very happy with our installation. We figure that we are going to achieve payback within 20 years on it. And I'm sorry. And yeah, and if you have any questions at the end of the webinar, specific things about our setup, I'd be glad to answer them. And that's it.
Thanks, JoAnn. Appreciate it. All right. So thank you to all of our presenters. We appreciate them taking the time. And quickly, before we get into our Q&A, I wanted to take a minute just to reiterate a few things that we heard tonight. First and most important, the biggest question is solar right for you? And it really depends. Solar isn't right for everyone. It depends on your home and it depends on your energy use. The very best thing that you can do is make sure that you do your research before you make any kind of commitment. And keep in mind that our local power providers, CDE and CEMC, are both resources that are there for you. So don't be shy. Definitely reach out to them whenever you have questions. That's what they're there for. But there's also a lot of other resources available at a state level, also at a national level. So I've listed don't worry, down. I'll just slow down them in the email with all the information. But just wanted you to be aware there are a lot of resources out there. Make sure you take your time and do your homework definitely before you get into any kind of commitment. And with that said, if you have any questions, we're going to get into that right now. But if you think of anything after, my phone number and also my email are at the bottom. If you send them to me, I will make sure that they get to the right presenter from tonight. I will make sure that they get answered correctly. So if you don't get your question answered tonight, definitely let me know and we'll make sure we get your question answered. And that said, we will jump into the questions that I've seen come across so far in the chat. The first one that I saw earlier that came across and Seth, this one might be for you. Is there a place where residents can go online and see what the local power code is for the city as it relates to solar panels?
Actually, I'm not aware that the city has a resource like that depicting code. Do any of my CDE counterparts want to chime in if they're familiar with the?
Yeah, I might need a little bit more background on that. What they're defining as a power code. Typically, with as far as CDE goes, as long as it's installed correctly and there's a physical electrical inspection sticker at the location, then we will proceed with the commissioning inspection. But that's all county, that's all city stuff. That's nothing that's CDE. We don't have a power code or anything like that that you would have to provide before an inspection.
Perfect. And again, if they had questions, they could always contact CDE or CEMC to see what the requirements are.
Sure, and we have on that second website, or that first page you had with all three power companies, CDE has a residential energy information portal that we developed. Actually, it's Jared's baby, but it's called Power Partners, and it's a resource, and we have our interconnection application and our interconnection requirement on that website. So that's where we are really directing our customers, our residential customers, to go. And then, of course, if they want to get a little bit higher level, on the TVA level, the greenconnect.com is where they would go for that. But, yeah.
I was going to add to that, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would just say that there are different requirements from your local power company and from the state inspectors. So if we're talking about the electrical inspection, then on the city codes website, they may list those requirements, but those are going to be different from what you find in the interconnection application packages of your local power company. So you contact us to receive those interconnection application pages, and we do have some requirements, and they're all laid out in detail in those packets. So we're happy to provide those for you.
Great, that's perfect. Thank you. Moving into our next question, and this goes for any of our panelists. Is anyone aware of any type of assistance or grants that are available to residents to help offset the cost of installing solar?
This is Gil. I think the short answer is there is one incentive that is still available. There used to be a day where there was multiple, but that's all gone away as price of solar has come down. And that's the investment tax credit, generally known as the ITC, which homeowners can take off their income tax. That's 26%. Right now, that is expected to actually go away. It was supposed to go away this year. In end of December, Congress did expand it for this year and next year at 26%. So that is still available. I will say there is one grant out there that's available for farmers through the USDA. So if people want information on applying for the USDA grant, I'm happy to forward that connection. But I think those are your only two incentives that apply here in Tennessee. There is a national database for that's listed on here. That's what you have to be very careful when you type in desire into your web browser. I don't know what the federal government was thinking with this one, but desire, DesireUSA.org. Make sure you type it that way. It does give you a breakdown. They list things that aren't really applicable. It gets complicated. There are sales tax, exemption, like for solar, that if it's not behind the meter, but really that's going to be built into most contractors' quotes. So that would be my short answer.
Perfect. Thanks, Gil. And that actually kind of leads into the next question we have when we talk about contractors. So just kind of from a someone reading it, what they said was it looks like it has to be a contractor that installs solar panels. Is that correct, that a resident cannot install their own solar panels?
And I'll take that one. So I'm Bethany Kitch with TVA. So for our Green Connect program, that would need to be a qualified contractor to install those panels. But really that program is to just inform and educate the end use customer. For DP or dispersed power production program, that can be a homeowner. However, it really depends on the local power company. You need to make sure to read the interconnection agreement and connect with them to make sure that you meet all of their guidelines and it passes the inspections at the end.
Perfect, thank you. And a follow-up on that question was, we talked about the panels themselves and things. They asked if there's any estimates on cost to install batteries, transfer switch, etc., given that you are using a contractor. And I don't know, I know every home is different, so this is probably difficult to even put a ballpark on, but does anybody want to talk about that side of it on the contracting side?
This is Gil. I think you answered it by saying, I mean, you can buy a Yugo or you can buy a Cadillac when it comes to solar. You can literally put in 100 watts or 100 kilowatts or 100 megawatts. So and people say, well, just for an average home. Well, an average home where it's very you're very careful on your energy use, along with an old plasma screen TV and outdated water heater and an extra refrigerator in the garage where you keep your extra refreshments. So, I mean, it can just be drastically different. So it really is almost impossible to give. I can give percentages for how much would go towards the racking and the panels and the interconnection, but it is almost impossible. It could be, a couple thought. Most residential systems are 4 kW to 10 kW. And so you're probably talking, most pricing is probably between, $5,000 to very low end to $25,000, $30,000. Can be just a range for a home.
Yeah, I agree with Gil. It is difficult to answer that question. And as Bill mentioned, all of the efforts he went into to get net zero. So it really depends on those energy efficiency items that you do to your home and how your home is facing, trees, shade. There's so many things that go into how many panels you would actually need to power your home.
And he did it the right way. Always do energy efficiency first. Solar is expensive. You don't want to pay for solar that you're not going to need. So if you can invest into an efficient house and then invest in solar.
I think that's a great point that we would really love to get across to our customers. And we attempt to do social media posts to kind of get between some of those outside installers. I mean, if it sounds too good to be true, a lot of times it is. And I think Mr. Moore's presentation was spot on. I mean, solar is a great addition, but he had several slides on making his home more efficient and only one or two on solar. So I think that's, it's a really hot issue right now. And with these, I won't name any of them, but with a lot of these predatory installers coming in and, promising zero electric bills and, $5,000 cash back, it's very attractive to some folks that do not need to be looking at solar, but instead need to be looking at upgrading HVAC systems and weatherization and water heaters and that type of thing. So that's the overall overarching theme here is contact us first, contact Tennessee, contact some of the reputable resources that can point you in the right direction.
Definitely. Thank you, everybody. Those were great answers, and definitely good to think of your house as a whole system when it comes to energy use. Another question we had was local power companies, CDE and CEMC. Is there any charge that you have or monthly fees to your customers that have solar? Is there anything that they would then pay to you, whether they're using completely solar or whether they're only getting partial of their power from their solar panels?
I'll go ahead and speak real quick, and I'll let Seth jump in. We do require a application fee of $250 up to 50 kW. After 50 kW goes up to $500. In 99.9% of the cases, the solar installer absorbs that cost for the customer. But the solar installer will write that check to us to get that application in, and that just helps offset, because we have TVA come in and do the final commissioning inspection, and there is a significant cost to that, and that interconnection application fee helps offset some of those costs.
Yeah, and for CEMC, we do not have any fees or charges associated with interconnections at this time. The only charge that I would mention, if somebody installs solar at their house, is even if they offset all their usage, there still is a base component, a base charge to their bill that they would experience. But as far as fees directly related to the installation, no, we don't have any.
Yes, Seth, that's a good point. There is a fixed component to energy costs, and so if you still have an active electric account, then we too, like CEMC, have a fixed customer charge monthly. And also, if you're there's no charge to customers who have solar, but if they have solar and they're enrolled in a DPP program to sell kilowatt hours back to TVA, then there's a $5 monthly charge for the administration of their enrollment in that program.
Great. That is all the questions that I have seen come through. If anybody else has anything, please feel free to type it in the chat box, and we'll have it come across. But I'll start to wrap up by saying thank you to everybody for taking time, especially to everybody that logged in tonight to watch the webinar. We appreciate you logging in. We really wanted this to be informative, so I hope everybody was able to get something out of it. Also, thank you to all of our presenters for taking the time to be here tonight and share your expertise. It's been fantastic, and great information was shared. Again, if you have any questions, my phone number and my email are on the bottom of this last slide. Please feel free to reach out. I will make sure that I get you in touch with the correct person. And if you think of anything in the future, let me know. We're always happy to help. I will get the slides out and the video to you as soon as they're ready, which will probably be a little later this week. But thank you to everyone. Appreciate you being here, and I hope you have a good rest of your night.